Hey there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. I'm your host, PattSun, and today we're gonna be taking a look at our cheating stories, where OP discovered that his mother is cheating on his dad. Let's begin. I caught my girlfriend hiding a small pack of condoms on her backpack. Posted by Reddit user Fable.
I caught my girlfriend hiding a small pack of condoms on her backpack this Saturday the 17th of June. Of course, after that I confronted her and asked for an explanation. She initially denied it, but after pushing her, she admitted this. There is a coworker married with kids that she is attracted to. Things evolved. They started sexting, and a week and a half ago they made an attempt to fuck. She says nothing happened. She was on her period and also she felt bad about it at the last minute. This was on Friday 9th according to her story. 1 week later was the day I found the condoms by pure chance. And I know, Ticket was also there. She bought them that very Saturday. I'm looking for advice here or any kind of input. We have been together for 14 years now. I never considered even possible for her to do this. Is it even believable that they did not do anything? Even if they didn't, and I believe her version. How can you explain buying condoms after the failed attempt? She is asking me to forgive this, claiming that absolutely nothing happened. P.S. Big thanks you all for the incredible support. It is honestly an enormous support for me at this time. Of course, every story has its background and specific details which I chose not to share, but the comments have been a top-tier help for me to gain mind clarity. I have good reasons to believe her story, even considering our DB periods, and believe this was only this time, but still I cannot see any scenario other than a clean break. I also have good reasons to think she needs mental help, which I cannot burden myself with. Again, you have been a great help. I cannot state this enough.
It's absolute bullshit when she said nothing happened. But even if that's true, she still considered it and an attempt was made. OP, she was sexting another guy. It is a betrayal of you and the relationship. You deserve better than that, and I know you've been together for a long time, but she no longer respects you or the relationship. I'm glad you broke it off and moved on. And now for today's second story. Am I the asshole for refusing to try and keep my kids quiet so that my sister-in-law could sleep? Posted by Reddit user Cute Air.
My sister-in-law, her husband and their kid currently live with myself, my husband and our 3 kids. Their house burnt down and it's in the process of being rebuilt. They've been here 2 months. My sister-in-law works overnights 3 nights a week. Her husband doesn't work. I work from home and my husband works 5 to 6 days a week installing docks. Now, even on the days that sister-in-law doesn't work, she insists that my kids remain quiet and don't make noise at all because she will insist on sleeping until 4 to 5 p.m. after going to bed at 11 p.m. the night prior. She claims it's because her body can't handle the sleeping schedule, but she refused to switch to day shifts. I'm honestly fucking sick of trying to keep my kids quiet literally all day and most of the afternoon so she can sleep, while I'm trying to work on top of that. My son has ADHD and he is off the walls most of the time, so I'm constantly having to stop what I'm doing to go and correct my kid for having fun in his own house. I told my husband this wasn't working and that we needed to sit down with sister-in-law and tell her this isn't working out and come up with an alternative. So we sat her down yesterday and basically told her she had 3 options. Either buy noise-canceling headphones, put a camper on our property and sleep out there, or change her work schedule because I will not be telling my kids to be quiet from sunup till sundown anymore. She said she can't sleep with headphones, doesn't want to change her schedule due to the pay differential, and can't afford a camper. I basically told her those were her options. Take it or leave it. Today I did not try to keep my kids quiet. I shouldn't have to in their home. Sister-in-law comes down bitching because she can't sleep and I pretty much told her tough shit. I gave her options and she refused all of them. Am I the asshole?
OP, I don't think you're the asshole at all, but you may also want to add a 4th option. They could live somewhere else. Look, beggars can't be choosers. You've taken her in after the fire, which is already an amazing thing to do, but it is your house, and she needs to remember that. Keeping your kids quiet 24/7 is damn near impossible. Besides, if she truly is as tired as she claims, she can fall asleep through the noise. And now for today's final story. My mother has been cheating on my father for a while now and I don't know what to do. I need advice. Posted by Reddit user Nice Rhubarb.
Part 1. Just some background info before I get into it. My parents come from a very strict and traditional household and their marriage was arranged. Not sure if this info matters, but just wanted to say it anyway. My age will not be disclosed due to personal privacy reasons. Just know that I am not a legal adult yet. So it all starts from a couple years back when I was still pretty young. Me, my mother, older sis and older brother. Their ages will not be shared either, sorry. Just know that sis is 2 years older and brother is 5 years older than I am. We're going through a pretty rough patch in life at that time and we were all stuck in my mother's homeland country due to the COVID crisis which was happening at the time. Due to how serious the virus was at that time, it meant that none of us were able to travel abroad back to our homeland. My mother is not born from the same country as me and siblings. The thing that made it worse for us was that not only were the circumstances of being basically trapped in another country due to COVID restrictions, but the only family that we did have there was basically no contact with us. Long story short, my mother got into an argument with her parents, who are our only family there, and due to the severity of the argument it caused her parents and the rest of the family there to basically resent us. I still to this day do not know who was in the wrong in that argument. To cut it short, we basically had to end up moving into a 2-bedroom apartment due to the help of one of my mother's friends' help. I thought everything was going great now, but I had no idea that this was the start of many problems to come. The first time I noticed something seemed off was when I realized that there was this one friend of my mother's, we will call him Jack, began showing up a lot more often than usual to our apartment and seemed overly friendly. At first I just brushed it off and gave him the benefit of the doubt and just said to myself that he was just really nice. Well, the first alarming red flag came about 2 weeks later. So, Jack comes over like he normally does and does the usual overly friendly shit he always does, and I brush it off. About an hour into his visit, my mother tells me and my siblings to go to our room and we do as told. My brother and sister seem to not care, but me, I had a bad feeling about this guy. I decide to be the sneaky little shit that I am and pretend I'm going to the toilet, but I actually just hide behind the toilet door and spy on Jack and my mother. Eventually I hear them go into my mother's room, which seemed off to me, but I didn't want to make a scene. The second I heard that door lock alarm bells began to ring in my head of all the possibilities of what could be going on in that room. I all of a sudden remember that I left my charger in that room and begin to walk the door. I try the handle once, but as mentioned previously it was locked. My mother speaks from the other side of the door and says, "I'm coming out in a bit, go back to your room." I know this sounds normal, but it was the tone in which she had said it that really put me off. She said it in a really muffled voice and was breathing extremely heavily. I had a really bad feeling about this whole situation but decided to leave it at that. As dumb as it sounds, I did eventually end up forgetting about the whole thing. Fast forward a few months later and the COVID restrictions have died down a lot, and I thankfully ended up being the only one out of my 2 other siblings to be accepted on a flight back to my birthland, and I was over the moon. I would spend one day at a hotel and the next morning was my flight back. I was so happy until I found out that we had a guest with us who will be in the hotel with me and my mother for that one day. Can you guess who that is? Yep, it's Jack. This really put me off, but I decided to put those feelings behind and just focus on the fact that I was finally coming back to my homeland. Fast forward one boring ass car ride later and me, my mother and Jack are at the hotel. I was expecting Jack to sleep on a bed of his own, but once it was time to go bed I found out that we would all be sleeping on the same bed. My mom on left, me in middle and Jack on right. This immediately made me uncomfortable, but once again I idiotically decided to put my feelings aside. Once we got in the bed I was already uncomfortable enough, but then I noticed Mom and Jack are holding hands and this really pissed me off, but I didn't want to cause a scene so I said nothing. Next morning, I say goodbye to my mother and go off to my flight back home with my extended family. Part 2. Fast forward a whole 2 years of awesome memories later and I begin noticing that my mother is always so interested on a specific thing on her phone and is never an arm's length away from it. I began spying on her and eventually find out she's been non-stop texting this dude if never heard of and sending him heartfelt paragraphs saying some things a married woman should never say to another man. Whilst the dude just sends one sentence replies. The dude then begs for forgiveness when Mom gets mad at him and the cycle continues. Couple weeks of spying later I found out that they are obsessed over each other and can't go a day's length without speaking. I was so disappointed in my mother since I know my father, as bad as he can be sometimes, he has always been loyal. I really need advice on what to do in this situation. Please be respectful, and keep in mind that I don't think I can confront her or even tell my father as matter of fact since they are both very argumentative, and will not keep it secret. Thanks for reading.
So let me get this straight, OP. You're too afraid to confront your mother, but you refuse to tell your father. Then what the hell are you asking us for? Look, man, the only smart thing to do is to tell your dad. Nobody deserves to be in a relationship where their partner is cheating on them. You need to stop being a pussy and be honest with your dad. Viewer support is the best way for me to remain independent and continue bringing you these daily videos, which will always be here on my channels for you to watch absolutely free. So please consider subscribing to me on Rumble and on YouTube. Both will be linked in the description box down below. Thanks for listening, everyone. If you even somewhat enjoyed today's story, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, and if you really like it, consider subscribing to PattSun to never miss a future upload. Stay strong.